Welcome back, children. I had explained to you in the introduction that what is respiration, how is it different from nutrition, and we said that in a nutshell, respiration involves two important steps. So, in this particular class, after learning the important concept of respiration, we will learn the respiratory system in the human beings, their parts and functions, so that we can learn the concept of cellular respiration. Children, just a small recap of what we learned before. All living organisms need to respire because it is the catabolic breakdown of glucose to liberate energy. So it will take place in two steps: breathing, which will facilitate exchange of gases, and second, cellular respiration, breakdown of food within the cell to liberate energy. Now, for adding oxygen into the body, into the blood, we need an organ system, which is a highly complex system made up of organs which will help in adding oxygen into the blood. It is called the respiratory system. So, have a look at this particular system. The respiratory system in the human beings comprises of some important organs which we will be learning now in detail. This is the nose, which has a nasal cavity at the back. It is called the nasal chamber. The nasal cavity is divided into two nostrils, and within the lining of the nasal chamber, you have ciliated epithelium, hair-like structures, and you have a mucus lining as well. So what is the important function of this nasal chamber? When you will inhale air from outside, the cilia or the hair within the nose will trap the dust and the germs. The mucus within will also trap the dust and the germs and will not allow it to move further. Apart from that, it also regulates the temperature of the inhaled air, matching with the temperature of our body. Now you can see just beneath the nose you have the buccal cavity or the mouth cavity. Both these cavities, the buccal cavity and the nasal cavity, have a common funnel shaped region at the back which is called the pharynx. This pharynx is a common passage for air also and food also. Now the mouth cavity opens into the esophagus or the food pipe, but the nasal cavity opens into the windpipe. So both pipes are quite near to each other, and there is a possibility that when you are swallowing food along with breathing, the food might enter into the windpipe as the region is common. So for preventing the food from entering into the windpipe, you have the provision of this flap-like structure which is called epiglottis. Children, glottis is the opening of the windpipe, and covering the glottis you have a flap-like structure called epiglottis. When you swallow the food, this flap closes, covers the windpipe so that the food is directed into the food pipe and not into the windpipe. Just beneath the epiglottis, you have the larynx or the voice box. There are membranes within the larynx. When air touches those membranes, sound is produced. So, the function of the larynx or the voice box is to produce sound. In continuation down, you have the trachea or the windpipe. You can see, children, that the trachea is made up of C-shaped rings of cartilage. There are rings of cartilage in the entire trachea, and the unique ability of these C-shaped rings is to prevent the collapsing of the trachea or the windpipe under low air pressure. When this trachea moves down into the chest cavity or the thoracic cavity, it divides into two. Each branch is called a bronchus. When the bronchus enters into the lungs, which are balloon-like structures resting on a dome-shaped or inverted U-shaped muscular diaphragm. Okay, these lungs are the main respiratory organs in human beings, and they are protected by a membranous sac which covers both the lungs, which is called the pleura, Pleura, or you can also call it the pleura, Pleura. This pleural membrane which covers the lungs is actually protecting the lungs from mechanical shocks and injuries, and the lungs are also protected in the bony rib cage. The bones of the rib cage protects the lungs. Apart from that, children, there are muscles in between the bones of the rib cage. These muscles are called the intercostal muscles. The movement, contraction and relaxation of the muscles between the rib cage is responsible for expansion of the chest cavity and contraction of the chest cavity for the purpose of breathing. Now, children, you can see that when this bronchus enters into the lungs, it is further divided into primary, secondary, and tertiary branchings. Each branching coming out from the bronchus is called a bronchiole. There are several bronchioles inside, and at the tip of each bronchiole, you can see these air sacs which are placed in a bunch resembling a bunch of grapes. Each air sac present at the tip of each bronchiole is called an alveolus. This alveolus is the structural and functional unit of the lungs, where gaseous exchange will take place to and fro from the blood. And you have to understand one thing, that it is believed that each lung has approximately 1 million alveoli in it for gaseous exchange. What is the role of these alveoli? We will further learn. Okay, so these are the main parts of the respiratory system in human beings. Let us just brush up these in the PowerPoint. The respiratory system in human beings comprises of the nasal chamber, the pharynx, the common passage for food and air, the larynx, which is cartilaginous, having vocal cords and produces sound, glottis, the opening of the windpipe, and epiglottis, which covers the glottis, regulating the food into the food pipe, not allowing it to enter into the windpipe. Apart from that, you have the trachea, which is made up of C-shaped rings of cartilage, which prevent it from collapsing under low air pressure. And you have the bronchi and the bronchioles, which are the branchings of the trachea. Then you have the main respiratory organs, that is a pair of lungs. They exist in the pair in a thoracic cavity. They are resting on the diaphragm, which is an inverted U-shaped structure. They are protected by the bones of the rib cage, and they also have intercostal muscles between the bones. Inside the lungs, at the tip of each bronchiole, lies the alveoli or the alveolar sacs, which are the sites of gaseous exchange. Now, before we learn the unique design, let us understand the structure of the alveolus. Children, let us see, this is the bronchiole within the lung, and I have drawn an enlarged structure of the alveolus to explain that this alveolus comprises of sacs of air. These are air sacs, and this is the place where gaseous exchange will take place, children. Now, imagine 1 million such sacs in each lung. If I open up each and every membrane of this sac and find out how much area I am getting, then 2 million alveolar sacs, if I open their membranes, it will come up to the area of a tennis court, and this much area is available within the lungs for taking in oxygen and giving out CO2. So how beautifully your body is designed for efficient uptake of gases. Children, you can also see that the membranes are extremely thin, because of this thin, just a cell thick, and this permeability increases because of the thinness of the membrane. Because it is so thin, easy diffusion across the membrane can take place, and our ultimate motive is to add the oxygen into the blood so that through blood oxygen can reach each and every cell. So you can also see that the alveolus is richly supplied with blood capillaries. Okay, it has a rich supply of blood. So when the air from the bronchiole will enter into the blood, it is through blood that the oxygen will then reach each and every part of the body. So what are the unique features of the alveolus? How is it so uniquely designed? Number one, the alveolus has a very thin membrane for easy diffusion. Secondly, it provides or maximizes the surface area for exchange of gases. And third, it has a rich supply of blood capillaries so that the oxygen directly diffuses into the blood stream. So this is why it is called the site of gaseous exchange. Let us see, children. The alveolus, which is a bunch of air sacs, extremely thin, permeable, just a cell thick, helps in easy diffusion. Approximately 1 million alveoli present, which are richly supplied with capillaries to facilitate easy diffusion. So they are uniquely designed. So this explains the complete respiratory system, children, where you have learnt that the main organs are also resting on the diaphragm. Upward and downward movement of the diaphragm will help in the process of breathing. Now in my next class, I will explain to you the process of breathing, the mechanism of inhalation and exhalation, and the concept of breathing rate. This is all for today, children. Thank you and have a nice day.